Welcome to Rich Keys Trading Channel, where we unlock one candle at a time. Please pay attention to the disclaimer on your screen. And with that out of the way, let's get into the charts. Okay, welcome back, my team traders, as well as my viewers and my publication readers. Today is Sunday, the 14th of December 2025. And as usual, I like to share my perspective on the analysis I've done, as well as a few other stocks I'm watching for potential bounces or potential trade in this coming week. All right, so let's start off with the dollar index. And as we looked at it from last week, we have actually moved down as these two candles was giving us kind of a bearish engulfing over the bullish candle we had. So we continue our journey down, and we just want to see how far down this is going to go before we get a strong support. I think based on the weekly close being so bearish, next week we continue down, and I'm looking around this box as my target range. As price falls further on the dollar index. Indicators wise on the weekly time frame, RSI, as we noted from last week, had already officially crossed the 50% level and is making its way down. There's only one thing I do see between this low and this low, and this appears to be like a hidden bull, right? So based on this hidden bull on RSI, I think we might get a little bit of a bounce. Um, Early part of next week, we might get some bounce, probably a rise target to about this level, probably 98, maybe 98.2 thereabout. It's possible. It's not for sure, but if you looking for entries, you might want to go in a lower time frame and see if you get a bounce towards this level for entries. But obviously, the journey is to the downside. That's the bias that we are trading. If you go on the daily chart, all right, so the daily chart here, you realize that we came down, um, poked at least below our KC channel as well as our Bollinger Band. But we closed on Friday with kind of, it's not a strong inverted hammer, but kind of close to one, as price, was able to hold the closing of the previous day's candle. I think that this here and here is kind of presenting some form of a divergence, okay? Not a strong one, as if you look carefully, this is your previous low. You made a lower low, but RSI is showing you a higher low at this point, in time. So this is all part of the play that you might get a little bit of a bounce. But looking at momentum, we crunching down, all right? So you might want to look for a bounce for entries, but the trade bias, as I initially said, is to the downside. All right, step down to 4 hours, and then we'll move on to our next asset. So on 4 hours, as you can clearly see, there's a potential that that bounce has already occurred as we moved up to the 9 EMA, and then we now cascading down, as well as if you look, your stochastics has already also crossed down. So the bounce on the daily divergence probably might have already worked itself out. But if you are not already in a position, yeah, you could probably, gauge for one as our momentum in fast momentum is already giving us a little bit of a green light. Okay, so there might be some form of either a sideways consolidation. I think that's probably my best you know, my best opinion is that we might get a little bit of a consolidation between here and here with a potential move towards this level, and then we'll continue our journey down. All right, that's enough for the dollar index. Let's go to our next asset, and that will be the Bitcoin chart analysis. Okay, and here is a chart of Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And as we noted also from last week, it's always good to reference where our analysis was a week ago, and then we can base on that and then project going forward. So again, Bitcoin is still trapped in this consolidation zone between this 94 area which is on the daily chart. This is a Fib 0.382 retrace of the impulse that I measured from here all the way down to the 80,000 level that we came to. And as you could clearly see, at least this has been the third week, and this resistance, this Fibonacci level resistance, is holding pretty well. And I think based on the week is not closed, we still got a good 12 hours to go. But I think based on what we are seeing on lower time frames, this is probably going to close with a bearish candle, suggesting that we might get our next move down next week. I think the consolidation has occurred pretty long enough, and we might get a push to the downside in the next coming week. And like I was saying, this zone has to be revisited. Okay, this level here, between 83,000 and 80,000 zone, it's definitely will be revisited. And I think that's the target zone I'll be looking for in the next coming week. If you go down to the indicators, let's look down at the indicators and see what is giving us clues. Okay, so good news. Okay, we were very, very oversold last time that we came to 80,000. We've bounced up this oversold level slightly a little bit. We didn't catch the 30 level, but close to it. I think this is just going to grind sideways in terms of RSI. The strength to the downside may not be so strong, but potentially, yes, we could revisit this level of 19, because on the weekly time frame, RSI in November 2022 made it all the way down to 7. We haven't hit there yet. Okay, so it's not like we hit the floor of our RSI level and we can't go any longer, or we can't go any further. As you can see, yes, in June 20th, thereabout of 2022, RSI was able to make it all the way down to 8.75. Okay, thereabout. So potential we could grind to that same level on a bearish sell-off. However, I think the speed of selling may not be as fast and quick, as RSI is already so oversold. But I think, yeah, I think there's more falling to it, and that's why the 80,524 is my target range. As we come into the next week, we potentially may get a little bit of a support there, and who knows, where this would go next. But let's step down to the daily and the 4 hours and see what we can identify there. So again, as you can see, this is technically like a double top on the daily chart. Came to this high, pulled back, came this high, and you're getting your rejection. And if you put this tool that I use to measure, okay, so assuming this is your double top, and you're measuring the top to the base. So even if you take this place as your base, but I'll really consider this as my base, because this is where we found our support and went up there. Okay, we would have to move about this same distance below the low of this point. Okay, so if I should extrapolate this down here, now you can see where we come into somewhere around the 70,000 is the ultimate target if this top holds some strength. But in the meantime, this area was a liquidity area, and I think we will hit here first. We'll get a reaction here, and we might continue our journey down into this liquidity zone here, somewhere around this 73, 76 area. So that's about all that I probably want to identify on the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, momentum is dying out slowly. We haven't crossed down yet, but looking at momentum at this level, it's just probably what, a couple more days before we take below the zero line on our histogram MACD lines. So again, there's no strength to the upside for BTC at all. Be looking for shorts rather than longs. um, any bounces are opportunity. Stochastic is already pointing downwards. um, RSI, as you can see on the daily, gave you the bearish divergence on that double top I was showing you, and here we go. All right, so on the daily, I expect RSI to come about the same level as we did here, which is about 10, and we are now at about what 35. So has more fallen to okay on Bitcoin as this week unfolds. Let me step down to our next asset that we would like to look at, and that will be the Nasdaq 100 and the XPX 500. Okay, and again, here is a weekly chart of the Nasdaq 100. It seems like this is pretty much working out as we call the top somewhere here. And this candle was the end of the move for me. I'll show you on the daily chart. I think I already did analysis on the daily chart when we had this. Um, and we pulled down, found support on the 21 weekly EMA, and we bounced back up. And this bounce was probably what I was looking for as an ABC pattern. I was initially thinking we would get our retrace up to the golden zone, which is the 0.618 level Fib retrace. Uh, we didn't quite get our rejection from there. However, we have our strong rejection from the Fib 0.786 level. If this level gets invalidated, then obviously it would go for a double top, or we might break out into a continuation. So since this did not occur, we have a bearish, strong, engulfing candle. This candle here is overshadowing this candle here, right? So obviously, candlestick analysis similar to what we had here, bearish engulfing candle overshadowing this, and we came down, boom. But obviously, one would say, would there be any bounces? I think we will have some bounce after this bearish engulfing candle, similar to what we had here. We opened here, we moved up, and then we came down. So I think we might get a similar play out here, as this sell-off was pretty strong. We might get a little bit of a bounce. I think we might get a bounce to about what 25,400 thereabout, and then we'll continue our journey down. Looking at indicators, let's look at indicators, and of course, the first MACD gave us a heads up long time ago, somewhere around October, when we started warning that the move up on the Nasdaq was almost ending. All right, so we can see his momentum is gaining strength to the downside. On our first MACD. Although I always say the first MACD is not very reliable for long-term analysis, but it gives you a heads up. If you're a high risk, high reward trader, it's pretty good. It helps out a lot. But normal standard MACD, we have already taken down from last couple of weeks analysis that this crossover was important. There's no strength at the moment to the upside. Of course, at any weekend analysis, if this changes and we get a continuation, we will change our bias and we'll participate in a rally. But for now, we're looking for shorts because our long-term MACD signal tells us that momentum is to the downside. If you look at it from RSI perspective, you know RSI is making lower highs. Any rallies come to lower highs. We might get a little bit of a move up here, but we're going to continue to go high, go lower. The only thing why I think we might get a bounce before our continuation down is because our stochastics is already pointing up. We haven't turned down yet, so we might get a little bit of a push up. As the week unfolds, and then we'll continue our journey down strongly. So I don't have an upward target. I'm more bearish on the Nasdaq 100. I think is one that is really set up for a good trade. Let's briefly look at the day and then the 4 hours, and we'll conclude our analysis on the Nasdaq 100. I think the daily also gives us this is a boost trap right here. So I know on Thursday, we printed this candle here, and a lot of people were very bullish on it that we're going to get a breakout of this level, and then we're pushing our way up. But guess what happened? So this is a clear gap down. So anyone that bought on Thursday thinking we're going up is now trapped. Okay, these people um would have to participate in the selling by closing their longs, or else they'll be in serious losses. So that would fuel up the selling coming into this particular week. I don't think this gap is going to be filled. Probably may not be filled anytime soon. Um, yeah, I doubt this gap is going to probably remain, and that's why the bulls would have to liquidate their positions. enjoying the bears at this level. If you look on indicators, our fast MACD has already given you a tick down. So here is the leading indicator right here. There's not much strength to the upside. We might just get a bounce or here and there, but I think that's done. The only caution that I have is because of the speed of RSI. So if you look at it, RSI came out so strong, all the way from what, about 77, and it dropped so strongly to what, the 28. Now, with such a sharp drop, is the reason why I think we might get a little bit of a bounce, because then the market is not, they have a term for it. I'm trying to remember. It's not in equilibrium, more or less, so that's my assessment on the Nasdaq 100. I think we continue our journey down, and I think target wise, this zone will be probably our next target zone coming into next week. This area has held support way back in October, found the same support here, and I think this is going to be the third attempt at this place. So this is my target zone for the Nasdaq 100. Once this zone gets broken, we're on our way down. Our next support will be somewhere around 23,400. So if you're looking to take profit, watch out for this level, and then maybe your next target zone you might want to watch for is, which is obviously the 200 EMA as well, on the daily chart. All right, let's look at XPX 500, see if there is anything different from what we already looked at. Okay, so XPX 500 also have a similar thing, but obviously not with the same intensity as the Nasdaq 100. Obviously, this also did a final retrace of about what, the 0.786. So that's where we have our resistance. The golden zone did not work out as planned, but this is definitely holding, as we now have a weekly confirmed bearish engulfing candle. All right. The open and close overshadows the open and close of last week's candle, and this tells me that the bears are in charge at this point. I think they might be pushing it further. This also, on indicators wise, is having stochastics pointing up, suggesting that we might get a little bit of a bounce, and then of course, once this crosses down, is like, the white flag is waved. Our MACD, as we noted from a couple of weeks ago, is already ticked down. As you can see, MACD is crossed down. Momentum hasn't started cascading yet. Okay, but this is the beginning of distribution, when there's no momentum and the market maker tries to push price to sell at the best possible price. So again, I'm very bearish on the market. XPX 500, I'm not expecting a Santa rally. This is going down, and I'll be looking for shorts on XPX 500 as well. Daily chart. On the daily chart, you could really see this has formed a strong bearish candle as with the closing of Friday. Bad news again. Here, bulls are trapped. So when we had this candle on Thursday, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were looking for this as, oh, this is a hammer. We found support of 21 EMA, and we going, and we gashed down big. So again, this traps the bulls here, and they will participate probably the early part of next week by liquidating their longs as well. Now, there's a pattern here that I noted as I was doing my analysis, and this is a rectangular pattern, okay? And if this rectangular pattern should work itself out, then I'm expecting XPX 500 to first break this support zone that we have here, which is a 6,500 zone right here. So this will be my first target as we get into this coming week. But once this target gets broken, and the daily 200 EMA also does, 200 EMA gets broken, this rectangular target is somewhere here around 6,144, thereabout. Okay, right about here. So we'll be watching out for this as the week unfolds on XPX 500. Like I said, the bias is to the downside. I don't have an upward target at all. Um, if you look on your MACD, as I showed you on the daily, this shows you that we're about to tick down. And like I noted from last week's analysis, if you want to play safe, you know, you don't want to be the high risk, high reward, trader. That's fair. You could always wait for MACD to cross the zero line on the daily chart to take your short position. So again, we almost there. If you look at this histogram bar we printed, this tells you that more likely in the next couple of days, this is going to tick below zero. So there you have it on XPX 500. The next asset I would like to look at will be gold and silver. Okay, and here's a weekly chart of gold. On the analysis for gold, I'm looking at a few things that look interesting as well. So last week, this level got invalidated as this candle obviously is a bullish engulfing candle over last week's candle, similar to what we had here. Bullish engulfing candle over this, and we had this. This is a distribution zone, in my opinion. I think gold is quite overstretched. Yes, it has an upward potential, but it needs a good pullback for the next leg up to continue. And I think based on this candle formation, all right, so we went up. Let's be clear, this is technically a double top. Okay, we came back into the previous tops right here. All right, well, of course, we didn't exceed it. And so there's a potential that price from this bullish candle that we closed last week on could actually give us another push towards this level. So I have a rise target on gold to about the 4,380 level. It's very possible you get a move towards there, but don't expect that move to be sustained. I think it might just get rejected from there and maybe sell down. Ultimately, we're looking for gold to do a pullback towards this zone here, somewhere around the 3,887 to about 3,830. Somewhere within this zone is where I'm expecting gold to pull back to, and that will be a buy zone for me potentially. If you go to the indicators on the weekly, we have a divergence on RSI currently as we speak. All right. The only issue is that this divergence is not confirmed until the next candle is completed. So just based on this, it's a high risk short if you take a short on gold based on this divergence. Yeah, you might get a good trade out of it, but it's a high risk, high reward because the divergence is clear. You've gone to about the same high as this high, and your RSI is only at this level. But potentially, like I was saying, RSI could move slightly higher if we do test a little higher than the previous high, which will be the best divergence that I look for when price makes it higher than the previous high, but RSI is lower. So it will be beautiful if price can make it above this level, okay, trap some longs, and then it reverses down. So based on the weekly, there's this divergence you need to watch out for. Now, in terms of momentum is neutral. It's just going sideways. We haven't ticked below the zero line yet, so nothing is confirmed in terms of momentum, and that's why you need to play caution. Um, our fast MACD is giving us the same. When you get one down, one up, one down, one up, that's sideways. That's basically neutral. So again, this sideways thing could play out on gold potentially for a little while. Just as accumulations take a while, distributions also do take a while. And here, price could push up, sell down, push up, sell down until eventually, those looking to take profit finish taking their profit, and price may then ultimately move down. But I think based on the daily, and let's look at the daily chart. Okay, so the daily, you have such good volume candle right here. I like the volume profile here. Buy, good volume, good volume, good volume, good volume, very good volume here. But guess what? The candle that we had, technically, this is like a shooting star. Okay, although I would have preferred us to close somewhere within the range of this level to give us a strong shooting star. But it's a green candle. We closed above the previous day's trading, but there was a lot of selling within this area. And that's why I'm thinking that price would move towards this area for more selling to occur as we begin next week's trading session. So obviously, I'm not expecting price to make it, higher than this level here. We might push up to this level right here, okay, and potentially, continue our journey down. Indicators wise on gold, let's see on the daily chart. So on the daily chart, RSI is quite overstretched at 87, which means we might just, cruise a little bit higher to about maybe 90 potentially, which is about where usually it finds its resistance and falls. I think 90.94 thereabout is previous RSI levels that we reached before we turned down. So I'll be looking for price to make it slightly up and then a move down on gold. Let's step down to silver and see if the story is any different on silver, as silver has been taking the lead, in the commodities assets. Okay, and here is a weekly chart for silver, and silver, has done incredible. Uh, Remember, this was our invalidation level for any short position, so I didn't take a short on silver beyond this level. Like I was saying from last week's analysis, that if price did make it move to test this level and find support, then I would add in and I'll join the rally. But it didn't pull to this level, So we had this Marabuzu candle about 3 weeks ago, and then here we go, pushing up strongly. Now, of course, this was a good trade. However, like I was saying, this risk reward is not there for me. Somewhere from what 56 to what 64 was a high. Um, where my target at that time I did the analysis was around here, about 60. So obviously it's gone above my target and made it all the way down to all the way up to 64.3. Now, what we need to look for silver is that weekly closing is a bullish candle, is green. Okay, so there's potential for silver to push a little bit more upward as we go into this coming week. Before, if there will be a move down, it would happen. It's quite overstretched in terms of RSI on the um, on the weekly, and this RSI is giving us a divergence right here. So this is your previous high. You've done a higher high, but that's where RSI is. But again, on the weekly, it's not confirmed. However, if you take a shot at this level with some margin of safety, you probably would do okay, because of the strong divergence here. We've gone strong, higher high, and the divergence is just, it's clear. You can miss this one. Um, but momentum wise hasn't changed. Okay, if you look at our momentum here, we're grinding higher. But again, here is also divergence on MACD. If you look at this histogram bar compared to your high here, here and here gives you a MACD divergence as well. So it's higher risk to buy for the long, and so I'm not participating in the long, although I do envisage the possibility that this 2.618 level could be touched. Okay, we could probably touch this level next, which is about what 66.2 on silver before the collapse down occurs to complete the wave 5. I think silver is doing a wave 5 on the daily chart. So let's quickly look at the daily chart. So if you look at this daily chart, yes, we closed Friday on a red candle, but look at the volume. The volume does not merit the candle. This is a volume price anomaly right here. This is a sizable volume that should have given us a candle print similar to what we had here, right? But as you can see, there was a lot of buying or absorption as people took profit. So it's not necessarily a reversal pattern on the daily chart just because the volume is not confirming the candle as well. Although, yes, it's a red candle on the daily. So it just tells you that the move up is dying out gradually. In other words, profit taking is occurring. And as it moves further up, those that took the risk of buying in this zone will probably be taking their profit somewhere here. So I wouldn't be participating in the long. Instead, I would be patiently waiting to get a reversal from somewhere around this level, for a short on silver. As you can already see, Here also our divergence is already worked out and price is already ticked down. But could we get a small move up and then continue our way down? Yes, possible. Stochastics wise, we already crossed down on the daily. That's significant. That tells me that more potential. The move up is done. Like it's exhausted. The only thing that is left is momentum. Momentum is still strongly up, and then like a train moving at top speed would not come to a stop in a dime. So you could expect some price moves to the upside before the train comes to a stop. But obviously, all the signals are on the chart telling you that the train is coming to a station, and I wouldn't be joining a train that is almost coming to a stop. So we'll be looking for a trade signal to short on silver in the next coming week. And there are other few other stocks that I looked at, and I'll just share a quick perspective on it to conclude this weekly analysis. Okay, so this is the stock trade that I'm sharing for the week. And this week, one of the stocks that I'm watching to probably take a position on is called Redwire, and this is I think it's an aerospace company. They kind of do things in space or help all the space companies do business. And it's looking interesting as you look at the weekly chart, and you particularly want to look at the volume. So if you look at the volume on this weekly chart, you know, this has been falling, came to find support here, bounced up strongly, and then formed our way down all the way back to this same level. But I like this fact that, we've come lower. This low here is lower than here. Okay, so when I look at the accumulation zone here, as I call it, okay, remember the takeoff happened right around here, although those that got in early probably bought somewhere around here in 2023, but nobody was talking about red wire in 2023, you know. But it did a nice accumulation and then a nice rally into 2024, sharp selling early part of 2025, bounce, and we've come lower into this accumulation zone here. So it's an attractive zone. And I'm looking at this volume that occurred on this past week. Okay, this huge volume here that comes in tells me something is changed on this stock. All right, this is not a small investor. This is a huge investor that has just stepped in. So obviously, I'll be looking to accumulate with this huge investor. My stop loss is somewhere right below this zone. If things just doesn't work out and it falls below this 4.77 zone, then obviously, yes, the trade did not work out and you cut your losses quickly. But if this should work itself out, I think this has potential to rally strongly. There is also news on this stock that, Elon Musk's company SpaceX, as well as Jeff Bezos' company Blue Origin, are look not that they are looking to. They already partnered with this company as they all do their space projects. So this is a huge business opportunity, for this company. So I'm trading based on that catalyst as well as the technicals. If you look on other indicators, RSI is already crossed into the positive territories, okay, on the weekly chart after being in a strong oversold level. We've crossed at least to the 50% level. So potential we could continue our way up from here. Okay. Now, of course, the last time we came here, we sold back down. But then, I'm looking at MACD, and MACD is giving us the divergence that I want to see. So this is a previous low selling on the same wave that we're counting. We've come lower, and here's your MACD. So here's a MACD divergence on the weekly chart as well. Our fast MACD is almost there, almost taking above the zero line. So again, this is a high potential trade that I'm looking for as we go into next week. So just a trade tip that I want to share with you. If you're interested, you can join in this. But I'll be looking for opportunities to accumulate in this zone. Potentially if the market sells or potentially price may retrace back up, but at 729 current closing, I think potential for one to grab some of this stock into my portfolio and see what becomes of it. If you go on the daily chart, as you can see, we've hit the bottom here, okay? And at the barest minimum, if you're looking for a target, this gap down would definitely be closed. So I expect price to make it all the way back at least minimum to close the gap, which is around $13. So, you basically be double your money if you can buy somewhere around $6, thereabout, considering that there's been a little bit of a pushback on Friday. Hopefully, if Monday gives us a chance and it pushback gets to somewhere around the 9 EMA on the daily chart, that'll be a great opportunity, to load up on some discount. And we'll be targeting the gap close somewhere around $13, $14 as our target. All right, so that's my trade tip on Planet on Red Wire. The other one I also want to share is Planet Labs, and I'll share the chart on from the weekly perspective. Okay, and here is the weekly chart of Planet Labs. All right, so this is such a great setup that I missed about 3 weeks ago, and that's why I want to include my stock research in this analysis for the weekly analysis as well. Because I've been missing out on some of these great opportunities. And I think it's worthwhile. Anyway, so why do I think this was a big opportunity that we missed? Here was a bullish flag. Okay, so when you rallied up, you came down and it gave you the signal somewhere around the week of October 17th when you had this candle. This candle was your signal candle. Okay, this candle told you that all the selling was absorbed as selling was dying out in terms of volume. Here was the change, all right? And if you weren't confident, you could have waited till November 24th week. That green candle here above, the closing of this gap up mostly was it. And here you go. So we missed this whole move. Now, is it too late to join this trade? I don't think so. I think what is going to happen as I'm looking at it from the weekly is that we just have our weekly MACD turn to the upside from the small sell-off that occurred. And we also have a weekly cross as well. So we are not late to the party necessarily. Of course, our entry is not going to be great because price has already moved up so strongly. Our fast MACD is also changing and hasn't given us all the green light yet. So again, we are not late to the party on this one. Um, This is a breakout for me because it's broken above the previous high on the weekly chart and we closed above it. So what I'll be looking for in the next coming week is a pullback. Okay, I'm looking for a pullback. Right now it's about $18. It's not an attractive entry for me. So I'll be looking for a pullback, to somewhere about $15, $16 thereabout, and then I'll join the trade. If you look at this pattern here, this has always done this huge volume, it pushes back, and then it continues. Huge volume, and then here we push slightly back, not significant, but here was the rally up. So here we have a huge volume coming in on earnings. Okay, I think they did very well on earnings as well. And so I'm expecting that profit takers from this zone will take profit. Price will move down probably towards this $15, $16 level. And I'll be interested in Planet Labs stock. Target wise, looking at this, let me see how target wise, where would we think this might lead us to? Let's use the fib extension tool to see how far we can see where this will go. So if you move this all this way and then we found support here, okay, so I'll be targeting somewhere at least about the 100%, which is about $21 and potentially to about 29 20 $27. All right, so this would be my potential target zone. Let me just put my little cap there. So target zone one, and then we could do our next target zone is somewhere here. I think these two target zones is reasonable based on fib extension. Okay, so if we do get a pullback into the $15 range, and I'm not 100% sure that we get that deep of a pullback, but there's a gap up here. you know um I expect this gap to close. It would be beautiful if it does, but I doubt we get this gap close. This is a strong gap up on good volume. This is probably going to be a gap and go, which means price retrace might be very shallow. And that's why I'm thinking you might get maybe about what, $16 to about maybe, yeah, they're about somewhere here, kind of test the previous high here, support found here, we go up. So I'll be looking for support at this level right here, which is about 1660. And then I joined this Planet Labs rally. And that's about all. I spent 40 minutes on analysis this week. I apologize, but it's been a lengthy one this week as I wanted to cramp everything into one video. I want to thank you for spending your time listening to the analysis. I wish you a great and a profitable trading week. If you found value in these analysis, please don't forget to hit subscribe. Also click the like button so that our channel can get more viewers as well to participate in our weekly analysis. I don't do hype trades. It's just chart and analysis. I just go with what the chart says. um, and that's about it. So if you found value, please share it with a trader you care about. They'll thank you, for the opportunity that you shared with them. And for those that might also be in a bad trade, maybe the analysis might save them some money. So I want to thank you again. Have a great trading week. Cheers to everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening and unlocking trade ideas and insights with us. One candle changed everything today. I hope you can already see how today's analysis can transform your trading decisions. If today's breakdown helped you spot opportunities or potential risks you would have otherwise missed, please consider subscribing and imagine what we will uncover together next time. Kindly give the video a like and share with an investor or a trader you care about. They would thank you when it saves them from a bad trade or a missed opportunity. Until next time, keep unlocking profits one candle at a time, and we'll meet again in the next video presentation. Cheers.